Hi everyone, Jamie Humphries here for Six String Alliance, and today we are taking a look at the Friedman IR-X preamp pedal. So just before Christmas, my good friends at Boutique Amp Distribution reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested in checking out and making a video on the Friedman IR-X pedal. Now, I'm a big fan of preamp pedals. I've been using them for a number of years, and I have checked out a few different preamp pedals on the channel. So I was really interested to see what the Friedman has to offer. So what we have with the Friedman IR-X preamp pedal is we have a hybrid pedal. The front end of the preamp is analog. It's a 2-channel preamp pedal, and it features two 12AX7 preamp tubes. Now, the front of it, all of the controls, it's very much like using an amplifier. We have 2 independent channels. Channel 1 is very much like a plexi-style Friedman amp. It will go from clean all the way up to sort of quite driven crunch tones. And then channel 2 is a little bit more like their high gain BE amplifier. So straight away between those two channels, you are able to call up quite a large variety of tones from clean to mild drive all the way up to high gain. Now, whilst the front end of the pedal is analog, the back end of the pedal is digital, and it features some power amp modeling as well as impulse responses. The pedal comes loaded with 12 impulse responses, but you can call up 3 impulse responses on the front of the unit. So before we get into the functionality of the pedal, let's just check out the layout. Let's start off by looking at the top row of controls. Let's just leave this end control out for the moment. This is channel 1. We have its own volume control, as well as a 3-band EQ, bass, middle, and treble. And here we have a gain control. And then we have this little switch here, which is a 3-position bright switch. This is adding 3 different degrees of brightness to the preamp. Over here, we have another 3-position switch, and this is where you can switch 3 different impulse responses. Now, the unit actually comes with 12 impulse responses. You can load your own IRs. It doesn't matter really what format they're in. It will take care of all of the loading and the length and the bit rate and everything. But it comes with 12 impulse responses, and you can actually select what impulse response you want on each position of this switch, and you do that within the software. Now, the software doesn't really play too much of a big part, so don't get worried thinking, I have to plug this into my computer. The whole idea of this unit was to just cut out all of that. You know, none of these kind of double press buttons and menus. Just treat it like an amplifier. Now, this control here, this is a boost control. Now, the boost control is activated with this switch here. Now, the boost control is quite interesting. At the moment, I'm using the boost control on channel 1 just purely as a volume boost. On the side of the pedal, you've got 2 other controls that actually adjust the amount of gain. In other words, treat it like a clean boost, how hard you're hitting the front end of the preamp. So in other words, what you can do, you can have this set up for your rhythm sound. If you want it a little bit louder from some leads, then you can select or set, should I say, the boost level to your desired amount of volume boost and then kick that in. But also you can adjust the control. There's 2 controls which are for each channel. So you can independently set different levels of gain. So you can either have it so it's just a volume boost, or you can have a certain amount of gain boost as well as the volume boost. And I think that's really cool. You might just want to have a little bit of additional gain and volume boost on channel 1. But when it gets to channel 2, you might want to set the gain control a little bit further so that you can get a little bit more saturation on your leads. So moving on down here, if I just push that foot switch, I've now selected channel 2. And again, it's the same layout. We have our own independent volume control. Again, I think that's nice that you've got 2 volume controls per channel, so you can set a different overall level for each channel. And then you've also got these independent boost controls. So a lot of flexibility with level as well as controlling the gain. We've got the 3-band EQ and the gain control. And here we have a tight switch. Now, if you push it all the way over to the right, that's going to give you lots of low end, give you a much fuller sound. And if you pop it back over to the left, push it that way, if I can do that there, that's going to tighten up the low end, which is great when you're playing heavy power chord riffs with a lot of high gain. Once again, we've got the boost level, and then on the side, we've got the gain control for the boost. So you can either have no gain boost whatsoever and just a volume boost, or you can dial in a little bit of additional gain just to push the front end, or you can crank it all the way up and get tons of saturation. You know, there's lots of different flexibility. And the boost control is selected like so. So you can see the red light is on. And that's the same. If I go on to channel 1 and I push that control, that is also engaging the boost. Once again, as with the channel 1, channel 2 also has a switch, a 3-position switch for selecting different IRs. So you can have completely different IRs between either of the channels. And we'll talk a little bit more about IR selection, but if you're just using this as a standalone pedal, you could have a different IR for your clean crunch sound, to the IR that you choose for your high gain sound. But there's a little bit more going on than that when you delve into MIDI. So now we've checked out the layout of the front pedal. Let's talk a little bit about the rear of the pedal with all the connections. We've got your power input. You've got a USB to connect it to your computer to access the editor software. We've got a MIDI socket there, so you can hook it up with a MIDI controller or a multi-effects unit. You've got a headphone socket for silent practice. We've got a balanced output, so you can feed direct either into your DAW or into a PA. We've also got a ground lift there if it gets a little bit noisy, not that I've had to use the ground lift. You've got an effects send and return. The send and return, you can plug your favorite stomp boxes. Maybe you're running a multi-effects into it. I've got an Eventide H90, which will really pair nicely with this pedal. In fact, I could run it in 4 cable with all my sort of time-based effects after the preamp and before the power amp modeling. And then obviously some of the front end effects, drive and other types of modulation effects could go front end. So I've got the send and return there, and then you've got your input. Now, another interesting thing is that the send, you can actually send that into the return of an existing amplifier. So say you really like the sound of a Friedman amp and you want to take that out and use it with your own amp, then you can just completely bypass the preamp of your own amplifier, treat this as the preamp and come from the effects send and go directly into the return and just use the power stage of your existing amplifier. And this is really good if you're the type of musician that travels a lot. You might turn up to a show and have an amplifier that maybe isn't of your liking. Well, then you can use the IR-X as a preamp and make use of the power stage of the hired-in amplifier. At the same time as that, you can obviously come out of the balanced out, so you can make use of the IRs and the power amp modeling direct to the PA or front of house. Now let's talk a little bit about the interface. The interface is doing a few different things. When it comes to the power amp emulation or modeling, this is based on a BE, and you've got 3 different selections of presence as well as 3 different selections or levels of thump, which is going to add a little bit more weight to the sound. As well as that, you can see that we've got our the different selections there for the impulse responses. But as well as that, if I can click on one of those, if I can actually see it, if I click on that, you've got this list of 12 onboard impulse responses that you can access, and you can save those to any of the 3 slots on either of the channels. So I guess you can have a total of 6 impulse responses, 3 on each channel. But if you utilize MIDI, you can have up to 128 presets, which will enable you to switch a lot of this functionality via MIDI. So in other words, you can switch the channels, you can switch the boost, you can switch on and off the effects loop, you can have different settings of the presence and the thump control independently on both channels. And as well as that, you can switch up to 3 different impulse responses per channel. So that gives you a hell of a lot of flexibility if you start to run a slightly more elaborate setup using MIDI. But don't worry, you don't have to utilize MIDI to access some of these features. You can just use it as a standalone pedal and set it up with your desired presence and thump setting for channel 1 and for channel 2. Simply select them and then hit store, and they will be saved inside the unit. So every time you turn it on, channel 1 will have your channel 1 presence and thump preferences, and then channel 2 will have their own presence and thump preferences. So it is very flexible either which way you choose to use it. And again, when it comes to the IRs, you can store 3 IRs on channel 1 and 3 different IRs on channel 2. And these can be selected via the switch on the front. It's just, if you utilize MIDI, you can do a lot of this switching on the fly just by selecting your different presets with your chosen effects unit. So before we do a little bit of isolated tone testing, just talk a little bit about the track. I wanted to have a track that had some glassy cleans and some really heavy crunch, as well as giving me the opportunity to have some different lead tones. So I opted to come up with a track that's a little bit in keeping with something you might hear Mark Tremonti playing. I was using quite an unusual tuning for the opening track. For all of the rhythm parts, it was D-A-D, so it had a drop D, D-A-D, and then A-D-D. So the B and the E string were tuned to a drone, and it gives you the opportunity to play some nice sort of melodic phrases within your rhythm playing. So that's what was going on with the clean parts. And then obviously I was using the same tuning for the heavy parts. And when it came to the lead guitar, there was a couple of different solos. There was one which was using channel 1, so a little bit more mild gain, a little bit bluesier sounding. I was using standard tuning for that. And then obviously using a higher gain lead tone for the main solo. And I had the boost kicked in, and I was just pushing the front of the preamp as well, just getting a little bit of additional saturation for the solo. Okay, so now let's have a listen to the pedal. Yes, I've had to put my glasses on to make it a little bit easier for me to see the controls and to change some of the controls on the user interface. Age, it seems, is creeping up on me. Anyway, let's kick off having a listen to channel 1. I've got all of the controls pretty much in the middle. That's on the bridge hot rail of this guitar. Let's split the coils. So you get a nice clean tone out of it. Let's start to push the gain up. So you can hear it does get quite saturated. Let's have a listen to the EQ controls. Let's first of all just drop the treble. Go the middle control. That's a nice control. And the bass control, turn that down. That sounds really nice. If I go onto a single coil setting, let's crank up the gain control and just have a little play around with the volume control on the guitar, just to have a listen to how the preamp cleans up. So it's really dynamic. It feels like I'm playing an amplifier. Well, I am playing an amplifier. Let's have a listen to the bright switch. At the moment, we are on the middle. So here it is to the left. Notice that more with the gain drop down. A little bit warmer in the middle. Quite a lot brighter there. So let's just have a look now at the presence control. So I'm going to click on that on the lowest setting of presence. There's the highest presence control. I'll go back to the middle, and with the thump, let's just go to the bottom control. You can really hear that's added something there. It feels really nice to play. Let's just have a listen to the IRs. I'm just going to scroll through the 3 IRs that are loaded. So again, you can hear lots of tonal possibilities with the different impulse responses, just the 3 that I've got loaded. And like I said, if I click here, you can see that we have a whole list of different IRs, and it is possible for me to audition them. Okay, hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea of the different tonal possibilities just by utilizing the controls on the front, as well as using the presence control and the thumb control and switching through some of the IRs. Okay, let's have a listen to the boost control. So I haven't got any additional gain dialed in on the gain pot on the side. I'm just using it as a volume boost. Having trouble switching. I don't want to be pushing it and moving everything. But as you can hear, even with that switch, that control just set at around about 1 o'clock. That's given me quite a boost of volume. So just to demonstrate the additional gain feature on the boost, I've just turned the gain control up. You didn't see me do it because I've got to get down the side. So I've just pushed the gain control up ever so slightly for channel 1. So now when we play our chord, you can hear that when I hit the boost, as well as a volume boost, I also get an increase in gain. Okay, so now what we're going to do, let's have a listen to channel 2. Let's kick on channel 2. All the controls in the middle. It just sounds great straight away. Let's have a listen to the EQ control. Mid-range. And the bass control. Really dynamic EQ controls. When I push in that low end, you can start to hear a little bit of the weight coming in. Here's the gain. So it did nice, mild, bluesy. all the way up to high gain. Going over to the interface, we can change the presence. Let's just have the presence on the low control. Next setting. And then the third setting, maximum presence. I kind of like it in the middle, I must admit. And then we've got the thump. Let's go to the lowest setting. Let's have a listen to the tight switch. At the moment, we've got it on the setting that gives you a much fuller sound. If I drop it to the left, then it tightens up. And again, if I use the volume control on the guitar, you can hear that it really cleans up. Let's have a listen to the boost control as well as a volume boost. You're also going to hear a slight gain boost as well. IRs that it comes loaded with. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of an idea of the differences between the two channels and some of the features of each channel, as well as how the IRs sound. You know, you could really dig deep into this. Obviously, we went through the IRs on channel 1. I've just stuck to the 3 on board IRs. But again, you know, you don't have to use the IRs that are on board. You can load IRs of your choice. But I think the thing to take away from this straight away is just how great it sounds out of the box. You know, just plug it in, even just with the controls all set in the middle, put the controls in the middle, and then start to dial to taste. It just sounds fantastic. So just to finish up this demo, I've changed guitars. I thought that some of you might want to hear a full-blown humbucker in the bridge. Obviously, the other guitar I was playing has a hot rail on 2 single coils, so we can now have a full-blown humbucker in the bridge and in the neck position. So I'm using the Music Man Axis BFR double treble. Also, the Mac has gone and I'm now using a Wampler Metaverse delay into the effects loop. So I just thought it would be nice to give you an example of a portable rig scenario. This is the kind of thing that I would take out if I was traveling light. If someone called me and I had to jump on a plane wherever, and I wanted to have a great sounding rig that didn't take up any space at all, I would just put a delay in the effects loop. That's all I really need. Some of you might want to put some other pedals in front, but utilizing the gain control on the side for the boost, it gives you enough options for boosting the pedal when needed. So you can get a little bit more boost into the front end as well as a volume boost. So I think that this is a great example of it, a rig in its most simplest form. So let's just have a listen to channel 1 with a full humbucker. Different IRs. I like that one. I'm not sure which IR this is. These are the ones that it comes preloaded with. Kicking the boost. I've dropped the volume down of the boost now. I didn't really want to have a noticeable volume jump. It's more about just pushing a little bit of extra gain from that control on the side of the unit. Okay, so now let's kick the delay in. Like I said, we're using the Wampler Metaverse, and I'm just running into the effects send and return of the Friedman, just to give you an idea of a mini rig. This is a very basic rig scenario, but even though it's very basic, it's incredibly powerful. Let's just turn off the boost on channel 1. So, so you can hear you get some nice sort of push clean tones. And by kicking in the boost, we're now achieving a little bit more of a mild overdriven lead tone. Works really nicely with the delay in the effects loop. Okay, over on to channel number 2. I'm going to turn the delay off for the moment. I've got some different IRs just to have a listen with all the controls pretty much in the middle. Let's try a different IR. Okay, and another IR. This one, it's quite a thick sounding. I'm not too sure what IRs these are. These, like I said, these are all the IRs that come within the unit. I've just mixed them up a little bit and included that one that we're on at the moment isn't one of the main IRs that the unit comes loaded with. I just like the sound of it. It's quite thick. If you engage the tight switch, kick in the boost. There's a lot of saturation there. Let's just go back to the original IR. I think that's my favorite one, actually. It's just... Okay, let's have a listen now with channel 2 kicking in the delay. I'm just aimlessly noodling around. This is the point of the video where I always feel incredibly uncomfortable, but it's a really fun pedal to experiment. And like I said, I just think this is a really cool solution for a portable rig. Just taking the Friedman, there's your preamp, 2 channels, all your IRs, and then just plugging a delay in the loop. You know, it doesn't get any simpler than that. So what are my thoughts on the Friedman IR-X pedal? Well, I am being paid for this video, okay? So I wouldn't demo this pedal unless I was into it. I'm not into demoing things that I don't really like because it's just not pretty pointless, really. So I wanted to try this pedal out, and I'm really pleased that I have this in my collection. I am a big fan of preamp pedals, and I have quite an expansive collection of different preamp pedals. Most recently, I've been using the Blackstar Amp 2. And now that has something that a lot of these pedals don't have. It has its own power amp in it. And also it has built-in effects. So for traveling really light, that's a great solution, but it's all modeling. And then I have the 2 notes, the Revolt pedal. I couldn't remember the name of it then. Now the Revolt is a great preamp. That's a valve preamp. It's twin channels, but it doesn't have IRs. So then you end up having to take an IR loader with you. I think this is the answer to the prayers. It's twin channel. You can have 3 IRs on each channel. It's MIDI switchable. It's got all that lovely power amp modeling stuff going on. It's got the boost control, so volume boost for soloing, as well as being able to dial in some additional gain for your lead sounds. I just think it's great. Headphone socket for practice. You can use it with an amplifier. You know, you can come out of the send of the Friedman preamp pedal, and that will bypass the IRs as well as the power stage, the power amp emulation. That's effectively just a preamp. You can run into the effects return of an amplifier if you're on a gig and you've got a rental amp. So there's lots of different applications and scenarios you can use it in. You can use it very basic, just as a recording device. You can use it with 1 or 2 pedals, a delay as I'm using it, chuck those in a bag, off to a gig. Or if you wanted to, you can have a little bit more of an elaborate setup utilizing MIDI. And that's where it really comes to life with all the other options. Being able to hit one switch on your chosen effects unit, change the channels, change the thump on the power amp, change the presence of the power amp, change your IRs, kick in the boost, all of that just on one switch, if you like, on your chosen effects unit. And it's really easy to set up the MIDI switching. It's incredibly straightforward. So I think this is fantastic. I really love this pedal. And if you are in the market for a recording solution, something that you can use live with your existing amplifier, or if you want something as well that you can use for a silent option. There are so many scenarios you can use this pedal within. I just think it's a great pedal. So yeah, definitely check it out. Click the link in the description for more info on the unit. And if you don't already, please subscribe. That's it from me. Take care and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.